Okay, back to the names. Okay, now we said, okay, there's a din like this. What happened, God forbid, somebody had a child, the child passed away, and then they have another child. So it says in Sfarim, you shouldn't give that child the same name as the brother or sister that passed away. Because it's not mazel tov. This is what they say. Some people disagree with that, but that's the accepted custom that you don't. We also said that, let's say you have a common name of Simcha, which is boys and girls' name, you don't give a boy and a girl the same name. Okay, this is the last thing we were learning yesterday about Yitzchak and Isaac. If it's a interpretation of the name, like we said, Dov Ber or Yitzchak Isaac, so then it doesn't matter, they're technically different names. Now, what?
We said that if the name was a little bit different, if they added a name, it would be okay, right?
No, not, and what?
A sibling passed away.
Oh yeah, so if they add a name, it's fine.
Would they be able to, if it's Simcha and Simcha, but it's added
They wouldn't. I mean, our opinion is to say you could do it. Usually the meaning is not to do it.
Can somebody change his own name?
Why would you want to?
He doesn't like the name.
Let him complain to the one that gave him the name.
Yeah, he goes and says,
Let him go to his parents and complain.
and
A name is a name, like we said, given to the parents as a prophecy at the time of birth, which is the lifeline of the person. You don't like the name, so you add a name. You can add a name if you don't like the name. And you can even call yourself with the new added name if you want. But in our circles, I know, I've said this many times, the hocus pocus, mukubalim, you go to Israel today, you have an issue, they tell you change your name, they pay them a lot of money, you change your name, there's no added name. Huh?
sometimes it's not easy.
Yeah, they change the name. The Rebbe was very much against people changing names. Name is you can add a name. Many times you add a name in halacha. But to change the name for what? Unless if there's a very valid reason, why a person doesn't like a name. So call yourself a different name. Now, are you allowed to name a boy after a woman or a girl after a man? But obviously you can't use a woman's name. But to give an example, let's say there was a woman called Dina. And now they have a son. So they want a name after the grandmother Dina, let's say. So they could give a name Don. It's not a problem. The same thing, if some people say you shouldn't give a girl a name after a boy, which people also, that the meaning is that they do it anyway. Now, what happens if a guy had a name Baruch? Let's say it like this. Somebody's mother's name was Bracha. They had a baby, so they called the kid Baruch, after Bracha. Now they give birth to a girl. Can they name the new girl Bracha? So some people say you shouldn't, but most people say that you could. And that's the minig. The minig is that you could, because again, it's a different name. Baruch is one name, Bracha is another name, even though you're naming two names after the same person, but it's a different name. If it's a different name, it's not a problem. We said also about combining two people. Now, what happens if somebody just passed a baby was born and a relative passed away, but they didn't have the burial yet. So many opinions say you shouldn't give a name until after the burial. There's an interesting story they tell in Prague before the Ramah became the Rav. There was a custom that people used to be they didn't have medicine like we have today. People would die young and all that. So there was a minig that if a baby needed to be, if a baby was born and needed a bris, but the father was deathly ill, they would wait with the bris until after the father died, and then they would name the baby after the father. The Ramah came to the city and he changed the minig. He said, we're not doing it. They said, we're going to do the bris on time, you'll name the kid a different name. The father's still alive, you're not going to do that. And what happened was, the father got better. First time it happened, the father got better. So they came to Ramah what's the source? He said, very simple. Sometimes a person is not worthy that, so to speak, Aliyah Navi should come to heal them. Not everybody has a schus. If they're deathly ill, that Aliyah Navi should heal them. But Aliyah Navi is coming to the bris anyway. If he's coming to the bris, so while he's there already, he can heal the person.
Yeah.
So make the bris, let Aliyah Navi come, and that's what happened in that case. He healed the person. They didn't have to name the baby after the father that was still alive. Okay, now, also if somebody's dying, you don't push off a bris, but like we said before. Okay, now it's interesting, the Rabbi Yehuda brings down that according to his recollection, nobody in the Mishnah or Gemara had two names. Nobody had two names. He said this is a new minig that people started naming two names. After, two names. Everybody in the time of the Gemara, you don't find one opinion, doesn't need to be the rights. And that they had, and when they called Abba Chalaf to Abba Shol, it wasn't that his name was Abba Shol. Abba was a sign of respect, like father or Rebbe. But then they bring down that some people, others for them bring down, it's not true. We do find in the time of Gemara, they did give two names or whatever. So Lebrel, it's interesting, but Bizman Hazeh, everybody gives two names. It's not an issue at all. What? Bag was one name. We didn't have two names, Bag. His name was Bag.
Bag stands for Ben Gid, Ben Giris,
Ben Hey, Ben Bag.
Hey also is...
It says, it depends. Some people say Ben Bag was Ben Gadim and Ben Giris, but other people say that Ben Hey, that Bag is Beis in Gimel is Hey, which is Chamishul Chum Shetera, and Ben Hey is also Chamishul Chum Shetera. So because they became a Giris, again, it means so they got the Torah, so therefore they called them Ben Bagman. So there's different opinions. Some people even want to say it was the same person, but that's not accepted an opinion that it's the same person with two different guys. Ben Bag and Ben Hey. Okay, now again, what happens, you gave a name and then you realize it's a name already. If somebody in the family has a name, so if you want, you just, stop calling that name. Okay. Okay, some people, it's another interesting thing. Some people, but we're not careful in this. Some people had a minig, if they had three boys, they wouldn't name Avraham, Yitzchok, and Yaakov. They wouldn't do it. But again, the minig today is, nobody's makbid on that. But there was and some people say it's only if the first one's Avraham, the second one's Yitzchok, and the third one's Yaakov. But if you're named Avraham, Yaakov, Yitzchok, it's not a problem. There's interesting things that come up.
Is that considered the same?
What?
What you just said?
No. Some people say you shouldn't call the name child by the name Yehuda or Shmuel, but again, it's not the minig like that. We do it. Doesn't say.
What's wrong with
It's from Rabbi Yosef Shusterman, by the way. It's Rabbi Yosef Shusterman, and he says something else. Somebody writes, because Rabbi Yosef Shusterman's name was Yehuda, and his father was Shmuel, and he didn't want to, name those names. There's a lot of things Rabbi Yosef Shusterman, okay, in Sefer Chassidim, Rabbi Yosef Shusterman wrote a lot of things. Then he wrote Savas Rabbi Yosef Shusterman, which were the will that Rabbi Yosef Shusterman gave. There are hundreds of things that he wrote as a will. Now, certain things, there's a whole argument in Poskim, did Rabbi Yosef Shusterman only mean to his children? What do you mean for Klal Yisrael? So there's a lot of things in Savas Rabbi Yosef Shusterman that are kept, certain things are not kept. Some people don't keep anything from Rabbi Yosef Shusterman. Certain things, like in our circles, there's a lot of things we do keep, certain things we don't keep in Rabbi Yosef Shusterman. So again, in this thing, it's Rabbi Yehuda Chassid is the one that says, don't name him Yehuda or Shmuel, but Lepel, everybody does. Everybody calls me Yehuda or Shmuel. The Rebbe Merash's name was Shmuel. I mean,
We shouldn't name those names at all or together.
yeah, no, L'shliuka benam b'shem Yehuda or Shmuel. Our Lino Negan came. So he brings down from Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, name of Yaivitz, that everybody has to question on it.
His name is Yehuda.
His name is Yehuda, and his father's name was Shmuel. That's what he said. Because Sheshmei Bala Tzava Yehuda, V'Shem Av Shmuel. But Yorshe is Kama Nivroim Nikroim Al Shemam, whatever. But again, this is not something. Some people say he only kept for his kids. Some people say for 3 generations. But Lepel, most of these things today we don't keep. Certain things that Rebbe writes we do keep. What?
What is the reason we don't do names from the Gemara or like Unkelis or just? Is it you could do that? Is there a reason?
You could. I never saw a guy called Abaye Rava. I mean, I don't know. In fact, it's interesting. We don't even talk about it. You know, about why people don't call from the names. They bring down about, names before Avram Avinu or things like that. But no, there's some people say if you have 3 sons, you should name them Avraham, Yitzchok, and Yaakov. That's not a problem. Even today, people name Avram, Yitzchok, and Yaakov. What? That's not Yaakov, it's Yisrael. They say about the Neighbor, when he says we don't find 2 names, that people are given 2 names, he said Yaakov and Yisrael was 2 different names. His name wasn't Yaakov Yisrael. His name was Yaakov and sometimes Yisrael. So again, we don't find that. It's interesting. If you think about it, you rarely find, what's him called? He argues on it, the Neighbor Yehuda, and he brings down the Shivas Tamarim, which is a sefer on Rabbi Yehuda Chassid. He said, "Gambis name how you nasen beishemis," and he argues on some sefer. The some sefer also says you don't do it. Chadashim Ibo, he says it's new things that they made up. But they're already in the early times. Some sefer had kids. They write the different few names together. You find by the Rabbeim, there are 2 names: Menachem Mendel and David Vaad and Shneur Zalman and Yosef Yitzchak and whatever.
Rabbi, because of that, isn't it better to say the real name as opposed to nicknames? Because if that's what they
I mentioned that some people are very makpid dafka to call the kids that have 2 names by both names.
or even if they said full name or the first name.
Yeah, but
It's better to have a
Yeah. Oh, don't go by what I do. Go by what I say. I preach. I don't practice. I'm not a doctor. They tell a story. They tell a story that there were 2 brothers. One was a rabbi, one was a doctor. So the rabbi gets a call 2 o'clock in the morning, emergency. Are you Dr. So-and-so? So the rabbi says to him, no, I'm not. I'm his brother. He practices and I preach. Then that's what it is. Machat Shinas Lamayz Ma'amarabe V'Mayim Kim Shv'Lag Al Terevon Gashi Me'edat Z'G'Moch Z'Dak Sol Figach Hebel Hamter Mitzvah